Before the iPhone, before Twitter, Instagram and TikTok, in the modest days of MySpace, iPods and not-so-smartphones, when we weren't constantly online or connected to the grid, one band would release an almost prophetic album about many of the problems the youth is facing today because of our complicated relationship with technology. Alienation, depression, cyberbullying, porn addiction and so on. The band was Porcupine Tree, and with their 2007 release Fear of a Blank Planet, they seemingly predicted the current social media age, which turned out to be just around the corner. The album channeled the classic concept albums of the 70s and earned both critical acclaim and a Grammy nomination. So let's take a look. Few people in the music industry are credited for working as hard as Steven Wilson. Apart from spearheading Porcupine Tree, you might find him writing new material for his next solo album or playing with many of his other bands. He started Porcupine Tree in 1987 as no more than a joke. Wilson had compiled his home recordings into 3 demo tapes that were supposedly created by a legendary but vanished 70s band called the Porcupine Tree. An elaborate fake biography was written, and the fictional credits included Mr. Jelly on bass guitar, the expanding Flan on drums, and lighting technician Linton Samuel Dawson, whose initials happened to form. Despite their ironic nature, the cassettes managed to create some buzz in the UK underground, especially in the music magazine Freakbeat, whose editors would later come to release a selection of the material on their independent label. This meant the first official album by Porcupine Tree, On the Sunday of Life. Though still a solo project, the next album would feature guest collaborators Richard Barbieri and Colin Edwin on keys and bass respectively. Both became full-fledged members soon after, and with the later addition of Chris Maitland on drums, Porcupine Tree could finally call themselves a real band. Throughout its career, now spanning over 3 decades, the band has released a total of 11 studio albums. And while most have garnered praise, the release of one particular album would beam Porcupine Tree up to new commercial heights. In 2002, after producing Opeth's Blackwater Park, Wilson rediscovered his love of metal music and became inspired to move his band in a new, more heavy direction. Fear of a Blank Planet was a continuation of that heavier sound. The album, being conceptual in the same vein as classic prog albums like The Wall, Tommy and 2112, is made up of 6 songs flowing seamlessly into one another, creating a 50-minute unbroken sequence. The concept becomes instantly apparent by examining the album's name and artwork. That cold blue light from the screen, revealing the teenager's blank and indifferent stare, couldn't paint a clearer picture. And it's surely a familiar scene for many of today's parents. While an album like OK Computer already had explored similar themes, Radiohead did it on a grander scale, talking broadly about social alienation in the modern world and man's relation to technology. Fear of a Blank Planet delves into many of the same topics, but instead shifts its focus to the microscale and one specific teenager. Wilson described the main character. This kind of terminally bored kid, anywhere between 10 and 15 years old, who spends all his daylight hours in his bedroom with the curtains closed, playing on his PlayStation, listening to his iPod, texting his friends on his cell phone, looking at hardcore pornography on the internet, downloading music, films, news, violence. The album doesn't waste any time, as we instantly get thrown into the world of this kid. The first song and title track beginning with the fitting sounds of him typing on a keyboard. And when the music begins, we get a fast-paced track, driven by punchy chord picking, energetic drums, and lyrics reflecting his life.
Xbox is a god to me. A finger on the switch, my mother is a bitch, my father gave up everything.
While Xbox is a god to me is pretty self-explanatory. A finger on the switch, though referring to gaming consoles, can also be correlated to the kids we see in the music video wielding guns, with their fingers on the trigger. Porcupine Tree clearly wanting to make a statement about the link between teenagers' deteriorating mental health and school shootings. Eerily enough, the video was also released on the band's MySpace on the very same day as the Virginia Tech school shooting, which led to the band deciding to remove the video. Steven Wilson has stated that the inspiration for the album came from the book Lunar Park by Bret Easton Ellis. author of such books as The Rules of Attraction and American Psycho. Wilson said he was the first to write beautifully about this kind of terminal boredom. Kids having everything, comfort, leisure time, gadgets, but at the same time valuing nothing. The influence becomes apparent in Wilson's lyric that borrow heavily from the book, especially on tracks like My Ashes and Anesthetize, the latter directly referencing the book's opening line. And speaking of Anesthetize, arguably the most praised song on the album, it's a 17-minute epic featuring a wonderfully atmospheric guitar solo from Rush's very own Alex Lifeson, one of two legendary musicians who make a guest appearance on the album, the other being Robert Fripp of King Crimson. In general, Anesthetize has some amazing performances all around, but the man stealing the show here is no doubt Gavin Harrison, who delivers an incredibly technical performance, packed with one insane drum fill after another. Lyrically, the song delves into the apathy and numbness caused by the prescription drugs given out so casually today to treat whatever mental condition. As the title suggests, this leads to them shuffling around the mall like zombies, reduced to mere consumers, anesthetized empty shells of human beings. Wilson reflects on the song and on the album as a whole.
I wanted to kind of write a whole album that was dealing with the whole issues now of download culture, internet culture, information technology, iPods, cell phones, reality TV, American Idol, prescription drugs, attention deficit disorder. All of the things, all of the kind of buzzwords that people talk about with the younger generation now. Specifically how it affects young people, kids. I mean, I think it affects all of us. But specifically the young generation that are being born into this era of information technology. I just wanted to ask the question really, how is this affecting people? How is this affecting young people? How is it going to affect their ability to develop a sense of curiosity, develop a sense of passion about the world, about the possibilities of life? If you have everything so easily available, everything from music to pornography is just so easily available, how does that affect your kind of psychology? And I do believe that human beings by nature don't appreciate things that come easily to them.
To sum up, Fear of a Blank Planet is a prog-rock masterpiece with excellent musicianship, stellar production and poignant lyrical themes. It's an album that takes the listener on a musical journey without wasting a single note, and an album that is arguably even more relevant today than when it came out. Steven Wilson beautifully held out this mirror and showed us a bleak world through the eyes of any given teenager. A world that has only gotten worse with the surge of teenage depression, attention deficit disorders, body issues, and the lack of healthy real-world activities. Wilson showed us a world where we have everything but are miserable anyway. A world of reality TV, instant gratification and substance abuse that greedily aims to treat the symptoms instead of the cause. And he asked all the right questions about the consequences of living on this materialistic planet, where the kids take everything for granted because they've been given nothing substantial to believe in or work for. Maybe it's time to address these issues once and for all, because who wouldn't fear living on such a blank planet?